It was the quiet hum of the spacecraft that woke James before the alarm. The small cabin was cold, a sharp contrast to the warmth of his sleeping bag. He rubbed his eyes and peered out the small viewport. Stars stretched endlessly across the black sky, distant yet brilliant, reminding him of just how small humans were in the vast universe. He had spent years in training for missions like this, yet every time he left Earth, the feeling of insignificance returned, mingled with excitement and a touch of fear. James was not alone this time. A strange alien presence had joined him on the mission. It had appeared suddenly during a routine survey of the outer colonies. At first, he had assumed it was a malfunctioning probe or an automated ship, but when he had approached, the vessel had opened a small chamber, revealing a figure unlike anything he had ever seen. Its skin shimmered faintly, like polished silver under dim light, and its eyes were large and dark, filled with something that seemed almost human, curiosity, maybe even trust. The alien had no name. For communication, they relied on gestures and a form of telepathy that James only partially understood. The being had followed him to his cabin, not aggressively, but with a quiet insistence that made him uneasy at first. Yet over time, a bond had formed, silent but real. This morning, the alien moved closer as he dressed, its movements fluid and precise, like water flowing around rocks. It did not speak. Instead, a gentle warmth radiated from its body. James shivered, not from fear, but from the sudden cold that enveloped the room. The alien seemed to sense his discomfort and stepped closer, offering what James could only describe as comfort. Though it was different from human comfort, he realized then that the alien depended on him in some way, though he did not yet understand how. Unlike humans, it did not generate heat in the usual sense. Its body absorbed energy from its surroundings, and in the chill of space, that energy was low. Humans were warm, bodies alive with constant motion and burning calories. Perhaps, James thought, the alien needed the warmth to survive, to recharge in a way he could not fully comprehend. Over the past few days, James had observed patterns in the alien's behavior. It lingered near him at night, often settling close to his sleeping bag, its body just a breath away from his own. At first he had been uneasy, unsure of boundaries, but as he observed the way it moved, the careful, cautious way it positioned itself, he began to see it as trust rather than threat. This morning, as he reached for his suit, the alien's large eyes met his. Without words, it communicated a need. He felt a pang of empathy he had not expected. The alien was not asking for anything beyond survival, and somehow the fact that it had chosen him was both humbling and frightening. James swallowed, forcing himself to stay calm. "All right," he murmured softly. "Come on then. We'll figure this out." The alien shifted slightly, almost in acknowledgement, and moved closer. James adjusted his sleeping bag to accommodate it, careful not to hurt the delicate, slender frame. It settled in the warm pocket of the bag, its body radiating a faint glow that pulsed like a heartbeat. He could feel the difference immediately. The chill in the cabin seemed to lessen, replaced by a subtle warmth that was both comforting and strange. He lay down beside it, careful not to press too hard. Its skin was cool but not cold, and the subtle pulse beneath its surface was reassuring. For a moment, the vast loneliness of space faded, replaced by the sense of companionship. James had never shared this kind of connection with anyone, human or otherwise. As they lay there, he reflected on how unlikely this bond was. Humanity had encountered alien life before, but few missions had resulted in something more than curiosity or conflict. Trust was rare, almost impossible to earn, and yet here it was, tangible and real, even in the cold silence of a spacecraft drifting between stars. The alien made no sound, but James felt its presence like a soft vibration against his own heartbeat. It shifted slightly, as if adjusting its energy, drawing warmth from him in a way that was instinctual rather than conscious. He did not flinch. Instead, he relaxed, marveling at how natural it felt despite the strangeness. He wondered how the alien survived in its home environment. Perhaps it was accustomed to colder conditions, or maybe its species had evolved to endure extremes. The fact that it needed him, or rather, needed warmth, was a revelation that challenged everything he knew about biology and life beyond Earth. Suddenly, the cabin sensors beeped softly, indicating an approaching energy anomaly. James sat up quickly, eyes scanning the readouts. The anomaly was small but concentrated, moving through space at an unnatural speed. He frowned. These readings were unusual for this sector. The alien stirred beside him, sensing the change in atmosphere. Its body tensed, and James realized it understood danger even without explanation. He tapped the communicator to alert the nearby command station. "This is James aboard survey vessel Echo 7. We've detected an energy anomaly. Coordinates sent. Advise on protocol." The response came instantly, crisp and professional. "Acknowledged, Echo 7. Maintain distance until further analysis. Do not engage without orders." James nodded, though the alien did not understand the words. It simply observed, eyes fixed on the console, aware of the tension in the room. There was intelligence in its gaze, a depth that went beyond instinct. He had come to rely on it, not just for warmth, but for insight, as if it could sense things humans could not. Hours passed as they drifted closer to the anomaly. James monitored every system, the alien shifting occasionally, its presence a constant reassurance. He realized that survival in space was not just about technology or skill, it was about connection, about bonds that transcended species. Here in the cold void, that bond felt like a lifeline. Finally, the anomaly came into view through the viewport. It was a swirling mass of energy, colors shifting in impossible patterns as if the universe itself had folded in on a single point. James felt a thrill of fear and excitement. He had studied anomalies like this before, but seeing one up close was entirely different. It radiated power, yet it seemed almost alive, as if observing them in return. The alien leaned closer, drawn to the anomaly. James held his breath, wary of the unpredictable forces at play. But it did not act recklessly. Instead, it seemed to analyze, to understand. James realized then that the creature's intelligence was profound, perhaps far beyond human comprehension. Its need for warmth had brought it to him, but its understanding of the universe was remarkable. He reached out, placing a hand on the alien's arm. The contact was gentle, affirming. "We'll get through this," he whispered. "Together." The alien's pulse quickened, a subtle vibration that James felt through his fingertips. It was a response not of fear, but of acknowledgement. The bond they shared had solidified in those quiet, cold moments of the cabin, and now it extended to the unknown threat before them. As the anomaly pulsed and shifted, James plotted a careful course around it, using the ship's sensors to map safe zones. The alien followed his movements, attuned to the patterns in ways he could barely explain. For the first time, he realized that humanity's greatest strength might not just be in technology or courage, but in the ability to form connections, even with beings utterly different from themselves. Night fell, or the closest equivalent in the orbiting station, and the cabin lights dimmed. The alien settled beside him again, a silent reminder of warmth and trust. James closed his eyes, feeling the pulse of another life beside his own. In the vast emptiness of space, they had found something rare: companionship, understanding, and a shared resilience against the unknown. Sleep eventually claimed him, though dreams were filled with shifting lights and strange colors, echoes of the anomaly and the alien's gentle presence. When he awoke, the bond remained, unbroken and vital. They would face the universe together, and somehow James knew that this strange, delicate connection might be the key to surviving whatever lay ahead. The universe was vast, cold, and unpredictable. But in the small warmth of a shared cabin, two beings, human and alien, had found something extraordinary. And that was only the beginning. The anomaly had grown larger when James checked the sensors again. Its energy pulses were stronger now, creating subtle waves in the ship's hull. He frowned, noting how unpredictable its movements were. It was not just a swirl of energy anymore, it almost felt like a living entity, reacting to their presence. The alien beside him stirred, its eyes reflecting the colors of the anomaly, large and dark with what seemed like concern. James had never seen a creature act so deliberately around unknown energy. Most humans would panic or flee, but the alien seemed to understand, calculating and observing every fluctuation. James had learned to trust its instincts, which often surpassed his own understanding. He leaned closer to the console, adjusting shields and preparing for any sudden spike in energy. The anomaly's waves began interfering with the ship's communication system. Messages from command became fragmented, distorted, almost nonsensical. James cursed softly. Of course it wouldn't be easy, he muttered. The alien, sensing his frustration, moved closer, pressing lightly against his arm. Its presence was reassuring, grounding him in the chaos around them. The warmth it radiated was no longer just comfort, it was focus, a calming force in the tension-filled cabin. He knew he had to study the anomaly directly, but venturing too close could be dangerous. The ship's sensors indicated that the energy field had fluctuations strong enough to tear through metal. James began calculating a cautious approach, carefully marking safe distances and windows of opportunity. The alien watched him almost like a partner, understanding the calculations in its own way. "Okay," James said finally, taking a deep breath. "We'll do this together. You stay close, but let me handle the controls." The alien responded with a subtle nod, its large eyes never leaving the console. James felt a surge of determination. This was not just about survival, it was about exploration, about proving that humanity could face the unknown without fear, and even form bonds with life completely different from themselves. They maneuvered closer to the anomaly, the ship gliding carefully through the spatial currents. The colors of the energy field were mesmerizing, shifting between shades of blue, green, and violet. James noted every pattern, trying to find a rhythm in the chaos. The alien hovered near the control panel, sensing the energy in a way James could not. Sometimes it would shift slightly, almost imperceptibly, and he would notice a subtle drop or rise in the readings. Hours passed, and fatigue began to weigh on James. The anomaly's energy was unlike anything he had studied before. Every glance at the viewport reminded him of the tiny speck of a ship in the vast universe. Yet the alien remained alert, a constant reminder of resilience and focus. Its body warmth provided a strange comfort, like an anchor in a storm. Suddenly, the anomaly pulsed violently. The ship shook, alarms blaring. James gritted his teeth, hands flying over the controls. He fought to stabilize the vessel, navigating through the energy surges that threatened to disable the engines. The alien pressed against his side, almost instinctively, as if lending strength. James could feel the warmth intensify, a pulse that seemed to synchronize with his own heart. It was as if the alien was helping him endure, giving him the courage and focus to push through. Minutes felt like hours, but eventually he managed to steady the ship. The anomaly's pulsing slowed, and the ship's systems returned to normal. James leaned back, panting, and looked at the alien. It seemed to relax slightly, its gaze softening. He couldn't explain it scientifically, but the bond between them had grown stronger through the ordeal. Survival in space was never just about tools and technology. It was about trust, instinct, and connections. "Good job," James whispered. "We made it." The alien responded with a subtle vibration against his arm, almost like a nod. He smiled, feeling an unfamiliar warmth in his chest, a mixture of relief, pride, and awe. The anomaly, however, was not done. As they monitored it, James noticed subtle shifts in its energy patterns. It was moving slowly at first, then accelerating in sudden bursts. The reading suggested it was intelligent in some way, analyzing them as much as they were observing it. James's mind raced with questions. Could it be a sentient energy life form? How had it formed here in the empty reaches of space? And most importantly, what did it want from them? The alien beside him seemed to sense his thoughts. Its large eyes locked on his face, and he felt a strange understanding pass between them. Whatever this entity was, it was not just dangerous. It was curious, perhaps even seeking interaction. James realized that their survival depended not only on navigation and shields, but on communication, on understanding a being that did not use words. As the ship drifted closer to the anomaly, James worked tirelessly at the controls. He used patterns, subtle energy readings, and even the alien's reactions to guide their approach. It was a delicate dance, and one misstep could end everything. He glanced at the alien again. Its gaze was steady, almost calm in the face of overwhelming odds. It had become more than a companion. It was a partner, a guide in this unknown frontier. Finally, they reached a distance that was close enough to study the anomaly without risking the ship's integrity. James deployed sensors, sending out probes to collect data. The readings were astonishing. The anomaly seemed to react to the probes, shifting colors and emitting pulses that suggested recognition, or perhaps even excitement. The alien's body vibrated subtly, as if in resonance with the anomaly's energy. James realized that it could sense things he could not, subtle shifts in frequency, patterns invisible to even the most sensitive instruments. For the first time, James understood the true value of their partnership. Humanity had explored space with technology, skill, and courage, but sometimes survival required something more. Empathy, trust, and connection, even across species, could mean the difference between life and death. They spent hours observing the anomaly, taking readings and adjusting the ship's position. The alien remained close, occasionally brushing against James for warmth, but always calm, always focused. In those moments, he felt a profound respect for the creature beside him. It relied on him, yet it also guided him, balancing instinct and intelligence in a way that complemented his own skills perfectly. As the first cycle of observation ended, James recorded his notes. He detailed the anomaly's energy patterns, its responses to the probes, and his observations of the alien's interactions with it. There was no doubt in his mind that this being was intelligent and that it had formed a bond with them for reasons that went beyond survival. It trusted him, and in return he had learned to trust it. Night, or the closest approximation in orbit, fell again, and the ship's cabin quieted. James and the alien rested, the warmth between them a small bubble of comfort in the vast emptiness of space. He marveled at how extraordinary it was to share this experience with a being so completely different, yet connected in ways that transcended words. In sleep, he dreamed of colors and energy waves, of a universe alive with life beyond comprehension. The alien's presence was always near, a steady pulse of warmth and trust. When he awoke, the anomaly was still there, shifting gently in the void, waiting, curious, alive. James knew that their journey was only beginning. The universe was vast, unpredictable, and full of mysteries beyond imagination, but with this alien companion by his side, he felt capable of facing whatever came next. Together, they had navigated danger, formed trust, and begun to understand a life far different from their own. The anomaly pulsed softly, as if acknowledging their presence. James smiled, reaching out instinctively, brushing a hand over the alien's arm. It responded, a subtle vibration against his palm, a silent affirmation. In the cold of space, they had found warmth, trust, and a bond that would guide them through whatever challenges lay ahead. The real adventure, James realized, was just beginning. And this time he would not face it alone. The anomaly's gentle pulses had grown stronger overnight. James awoke to the soft hum vibrating through the hull of the ship. He rubbed his eyes and glanced at the alien beside him. It was already alert, its large eyes scanning the control panels and the viewport with a precision that made him marvel. Somehow it sensed danger, or opportunity that he could not fully understand. The anomaly had shifted slightly in its orbit, as if it had moved closer intentionally. James tapped the console, double-checking the readings. The energy waves were fluctuating at a rhythm that suggested awareness, perhaps even intelligence. He felt a thrill of excitement mixed with caution. Humanity had faced unknowns before, but rarely had they come across something that seemed alive in such a pure, raw way. The alien pressed lightly against his side, a silent reminder of their partnership. It did not speak, could not speak in human language, yet its presence conveyed everything he needed to know. Trust, alertness, focus. James nodded, as if the gesture alone could communicate back. Together they prepared the ship for a cautious approach. As the hours passed, James deployed additional sensors, sending them closer to the anomaly. Each probe transmitted back streams of data, which James analyzed carefully. The anomaly responded to each probe, adjusting its energy flows, shifting colors, and emitting pulses that seemed to echo the ship's own systems. It was as if the entity was studying them, mirroring their actions in a way that was unsettling and fascinating at once. The alien hovered near the control panel, moving its body in subtle ways that James had learned to interpret. A shift in its posture signaled changes in the anomaly's energy field. A flicker of movement indicated turbulence in the surrounding space. James realized that its perception extended beyond the limitations of human instruments. Where his sensors gave numbers, the alien gave intuition, a living interpretation of the cosmic patterns surrounding them. Okay, James murmured. Let's see if we can understand it, not just observe it. He reached out to adjust the ship's trajectory, moving closer to the anomaly while maintaining a safe distance. The alien pressed a hand-like appendage lightly against the console as if guiding his movements. James smiled slightly, feeling the warmth of its body beside him. He had come to rely on that warmth not just for comfort, but for focus. It anchored him in moments of tension, reminding him that they were not alone. Suddenly, the anomaly reacted violently. Its energy surged in sharp bursts, causing the ship to shake. James gripped the controls tightly, countering the turbulence with careful maneuvers. Alarms blared and the ship's lights flickered. The alien reacted instantly, pressing against him, its warmth intensifying as though lending him strength. He could feel a subtle vibration against his palm, a silent rhythm that matched his heartbeat. "This is it," James whispered. "We'll get through this." The alien seemed to acknowledge his words without understanding them, its large eyes steady and calm. Together they navigated the shifting energy field, dodging pulses that could have easily disabled the ship. James marveled at the alien's instincts, realizing that its connection to the anomaly, or perhaps to energy itself, was extraordinary. Minutes passed like hours, but gradually, they managed to stabilize the vessel. The anomaly's pulses slowed, returning to a gentler rhythm. James exhaled, leaning back in his seat and glanced at the alien. Its body relaxed slightly, though its eyes remained alert. It had sensed the danger, reacted to it, and survived alongside him. He realized then that they had formed a partnership that went beyond trust. It was a shared understanding of survival, resilience, and adaptation. But the anomaly was not passive for long. It began to emit a series of complex energy waves, patterns that were unlike anything James had seen. He analyzed the data carefully, noting irregularities that suggested intentionality. It was not random. This entity was observing, communicating, or perhaps testing them. The alien moved closer, pressing against his arm in a gesture that felt almost protective. James realized that its need for warmth and its instinctive connection to the anomaly were linked. The energy field seemed to respond to their proximity, reacting more strongly when the alien was near. It was as if they were forming a triangle of awareness: human, alien, and anomaly, each influencing the other in subtle ways. Hours turned into cycles of observation and cautious interaction. James logged every detail, noting how the anomaly shifted in response to movement, temperature, and energy output. The alien remained his constant companion, guiding him with intuitive gestures and subtle vibrations. Together, they began to understand the anomaly not just as a force of nature, but as a living presence with awareness, curiosity, and perhaps even emotion. During a quiet moment, James leaned back in his chair, staring at the alien. Its skin shimmered faintly under the cabin lights, and its eyes reflected the colors of the anomaly outside. For a fleeting moment, he imagined what its life might have been like before it encountered humans. Had it traveled through the cosmos before, seeking warmth, connection, or understanding? Or had it existed alone until this moment, drifting through the void until they arrived? The alien shifted slightly, its gaze meeting his. James felt a pulse of understanding, an unspoken acknowledgement of the bond they shared. They were different in every way, yet here in the emptiness of space, they had found a connection that transcended species, language, and even the limitations of biology. Suddenly, the anomaly pulsed brightly, sending waves of energy that made the ship's systems flicker. James gritted his teeth, gripping the controls. The alien pressed against him again, its warmth a grounding force. He realized that they had entered a new phase of interaction. The anomaly was actively testing them, and their response would determine whether they could survive the next surge. James adjusted the ship's shields and trajectory, moving in rhythm with the alien's subtle guidance. Together, they navigated the shifting waves, dodging the most dangerous pulses while observing the anomaly's behavior. Every movement was precise, calculated, and tense. He marveled at how the alien seemed to anticipate the anomaly's shifts before the sensors even registered them. Finally, the surge ended. The anomaly's pulses slowed, settling into a gentle rhythm once more. James leaned back, exhausted but exhilarated. The alien relaxed beside him, its body still radiating warmth, a comforting reminder of their shared survival. They had faced danger together, adapted, and emerged intact. For the next cycle, James focused on understanding the anomaly's patterns. It was not merely a force of destruction. It had awareness, intelligence, and perhaps even curiosity about life beyond itself. The alien's presence remained crucial, its instincts guiding him through the complexities of energy fluctuations that no instrument could fully interpret. They worked in tandem for hours, mapping the anomaly's responses, noting its reactions to different frequencies, distances, and energies. James realized that this partnership was more than survival. It was exploration, a collaboration between human ingenuity, alien instinct, and cosmic intelligence. During a brief pause, James accessed the ship's logs, reviewing data from previous missions. He compared the anomaly's behavior to other energy phenomena, but nothing matched. It was unique, unprecedented, and potentially transformative for humanity's understanding of life in the universe. The alien leaned against his side, a quiet presence that reminded him of the stakes and the wonder of what they had discovered. As the orbital cycle progressed, James prepared for another closer approach to the anomaly. He double-checked all systems, making adjustments based on both sensor data and the alien's subtle signals. Together, they inched closer, careful not to provoke any aggressive responses. The alien's body warmth remained a constant anchor, giving him confidence and focus in the high-stakes environment. Suddenly, the anomaly pulsed again, this time with a sequence that suggested direct communication. James's eyes widened. Could it be trying to speak? To interact? He studied the patterns, attempting to decipher meaning. The alien moved its hand-like appendage toward the controls almost instinctively, and the anomaly's pulses adjusted slightly in response. James realized then that they had discovered something extraordinary. The anomaly was alive, aware, and capable of interacting with both human and alien presence. Their partnership had not only ensured survival but had created a channel for understanding a new form of life. It was a moment of profound realization. Humanity was not alone, and trust, even across species, was the bridge to understanding the cosmos. As night, or the nearest approximation, fell across their orbit, James allowed himself a moment of reflection. The alien rested beside him, its warmth soothing and steady. The anomaly continued its subtle pulses outside, a silent rhythm that resonated with both of them. In this vast, cold universe, they had found connection, courage, and a shared sense of purpose. James knew the coming cycles would be challenging. The anomaly had revealed intelligence, unpredictability, and the potential for danger. But he also knew that together with the alien, they could face whatever came next. They were partners, explorers, and perhaps the first humans to truly understand a life form beyond comprehension. The universe was full of mysteries, but James realized something simple yet profound. Survival was not just about skill or technology. It was about connection, trust. The anomaly's pulses had taken on a new rhythm by the next cycle. James watched them carefully, noting subtle shifts in color and intensity. The patterns were no longer random or merely reactive. They suggested deliberation, almost like an invitation. He studied the readings on the console, comparing them with previous data, and realized that this energy form was attempting to communicate, to test the limits of understanding between life forms. The alien beside him stirred, moving closer. Its eyes reflected the pulsing lights of the anomaly, large and dark, focused with an intensity that James had come to recognize as intelligence. He had relied on its instincts before, but now, more than ever, he realized that their partnership was the key to interacting with this unknown presence. James reached out and adjusted the ship's sensors, trying to match the anomaly's frequency. Every shift, every pulse felt like a dialogue, though one without words. The alien pressed gently against his arm as if lending strength and stability, a quiet reassurance in the uncertainty of space. James had come to depend on that warmth not just for comfort, but as a focus point, a reminder that they were not facing the unknown alone. Hours passed in careful observation. The anomaly responded to their presence in ways that were both predictable and surprising. When the alien shifted slightly closer to the console, the energy pulses slowed as if acknowledging it. When James moved the ship to a new position, the anomaly mirrored the motion, creating patterns that hinted at intelligence and curiosity. It was a silent conversation, a shared understanding forged between human, alien, and cosmic energy. James felt a mix of awe and responsibility. They had discovered something unprecedented, a living, intelligent energy form capable of interaction and response. Humanity had encountered strange phenomena before, but nothing like this. The implications were vast, not just for science, but for understanding life itself. He realized that the alien beside him was more than a companion. It was a bridge, a connection that made communication possible. Suddenly, the anomaly pulsed sharply, sending a wave of energy that rattled the ship. James gripped the controls, stabilizing the vessel as the alien pressed against him instinctively. Its body radiated warmth, a pulse that seemed to sync with his own heartbeat. For a moment, he felt the sheer scale of the universe, the fragility of a small human ship surrounded by vast unknown forces. But the alien's presence grounded him, providing focus and courage in the face of uncertainty. The anomaly's energy began to form patterns, loops, and arcs that suggested intention. James studied the console, trying to decipher a sequence. He realized that the energy form was not aggressive. It was attempting interaction, offering a form of communication that transcended speech. He leaned closer, adjusting the sensors to better capture the pulses, while the alien hovered near, its large eyes tracking every shift. Minutes turned into hours as they worked to decode the anomaly's patterns. The alien moved subtly, guiding James's hands, nudging him to adjust frequencies and angles. It was a collaboration unlike any James had experienced. Human ingenuity combined with alien instinct, both working in harmony with an intelligent cosmic presence. He felt a profound sense of wonder and humility. Suddenly, the anomaly emitted a series of pulses that were different, faster, sharper, almost like a signal. James interpreted it as a request. He carefully maneuvered the ship closer, keeping within a safe range while responding to the energy form. The alien pressed against him, its warmth intensifying as if urging caution and precision. Every movement was delicate, every decision critical. As they approached, the anomaly shifted again, creating a visible halo of light around the ship. James's breath caught. It was beautiful, almost hypnotic and entirely unlike anything he had ever seen. The alien moved instinctively, guiding his adjustments, and the energy pulses responded, forming arcs and waves that seemed like a cosmic dance. James realized that they were learning from each other. The anomaly responded to their actions. The alien responded to the anomaly, and he responded to both. It was a cycle of understanding, a complex interaction that transcended species and form. He felt a surge of pride, not personal pride, but pride in humanity's ability to connect, to adapt, and to trust even in the most alien of circumstances. Hours passed in this silent dialogue, each pulse and shift offering new insights. The anomaly's energy became more stable, its patterns more intricate, and James began to understand them not as threats but as expressions of intelligence and curiosity. The alien rested close by, its presence a constant source of warmth and reassurance, silently guiding him through the cosmic signals. Suddenly, an unexpected surge of energy blasted through the ship. James gripped the controls, countering the force as alarms blared. The anomaly pulsed violently, yet it did not appear malicious. It was testing them, pushing their understanding to the limit. The alien pressed against him, and he felt a pulse of warmth that strengthened his resolve. Together they weathered the surge, adapting in real time to the anomaly's challenges. When the surge ended, James leaned back, breathing heavily but exhilarated. The alien relaxed beside him, its gaze softening. They had survived a direct challenge from an entity unlike anything in human experience. But James knew that this was only the beginning. The anomaly was intelligent, curious, and capable of testing them in ways they had yet to understand. He accessed the data logs, reviewing the readings from the latest surge. The anomaly's energy fluctuations were complex, but patterns emerged. It responded to proximity, warmth, and adjustments in energy frequency. James realized that survival and communication depended on careful coordination between human, alien, and anomaly. It was a delicate balance, one that required focus, trust, and instinct. As the orbital cycle continued, James prepared for another approach. He checked every system, adjusted shields, and calibrated the sensors. The alien hovered near, its warmth a steady reassurance in the tense environment. Together they inched closer to the anomaly, maintaining a careful distance while continuing their silent dialogue. The anomaly responded immediately, creating a cascade of colors and pulses that danced across the viewport. James followed the rhythm, adjusting the ship's position in harmony with the energy waves. The alien moved subtly, guiding him through motions that seemed to anticipate the anomaly's shifts. For the first time, he felt a true sense of partnership, a collaboration that transcended species and form. Time seemed to blur as they worked. Hours passed, or perhaps it was only minutes. James could not tell. The anomaly continued its complex patterns, and each adjustment brought new insights. The alien remained close, a constant source of warmth and focus. James realized that this was more than survival. It was a moment of profound understanding, a bridge between human curiosity, alien instinct, and cosmic intelligence. Finally, the anomaly pulsed one last time in a sequence that seemed deliberate, almost like a greeting or acknowledgement. James studied the readings, noting the precise patterns and intervals. It was as if the entity had recognized their efforts, responding in a way that was both subtle and profound. The alien pressed against him gently, a quiet affirmation of their shared success. James allowed himself a moment of reflection. They had faced danger, adapted to unknown forces, and established a connection with a life form beyond comprehension. Humanity had survived not just through technology, skill or courage, but through trust, empathy, and collaboration, even across species and forms of existence. As the orbital cycle ended, James and the alien rested. The anomaly's pulses continued outside, steady and rhythmic, a reminder of the vast mysteries still waiting in the universe. James felt a profound sense of purpose and belonging. They had ventured into the unknown together and emerged not only intact but enlightened. The alien pressed close once more, its warmth a gentle reminder that they were not alone. James smiled, reaching out instinctively. Together, they had faced one of the universe's greatest unknowns and had begun to understand it. The adventure was far from over, but they were ready. James realized that this partnership, this connection, was what made humans capable of surviving and thriving in the cosmos. It was not just technology or strength, it was empathy, understanding, and trust. The alien's presence had guided him through danger, provided warmth and focus, and revealed the extraordinary potential of connection across differences. Outside, the anomaly pulsed gently, acknowledging their presence. Inside, James and the alien rested, united by trust, warmth, and a shared sense of purpose. The universe was vast and unpredictable, but together, they had found the courage and insight to face whatever lay ahead. The next cycle would bring new challenges, new tests, and new discoveries. But James knew one thing with certainty. They would face it together. Human and alien, bonded by trust, warmth, and the unshakable spirit of exploration. The anomaly's pulses shimmered through the viewport, a quiet promise of mysteries waiting to be uncovered. James reached out instinctively, brushing a hand against the alien. Together, they would venture further into the unknown, ready to face the universe with courage, connection, and unwavering determination. The anomaly pulsed steadily, its energy waves calmer than before, almost as if it were waiting. James watched from the cockpit, his hands resting lightly on the controls. The alien beside him hovered, its eyes large and alert, reflecting the soft glow of the anomaly outside. They had survived the initial tests, adapted to the energy surges, and formed a bond not only with each other, but with this strange cosmic presence. James adjusted the sensors, mapping the anomaly's energy flows. The reading suggested something remarkable. It was not just a chaotic energy field. It was a living entity, aware, intelligent, and capable of interaction. Every pulse, every shift seemed purposeful. And now, after cycles of observation, James sensed that they were approaching a breakthrough, a moment that could redefine humanity's understanding of life in the universe. The alien moved closer, its body radiating warmth. James felt a pulse against his arm, subtle but steady like encouragement. It had been their companion, guide, and partner throughout this journey, and now it was preparing him for the most critical step. He took a deep breath and nodded. Together they would attempt direct contact. James adjusted the ship's position carefully, moving into the center of the anomaly's energy field. The lights outside shimmered and twisted, casting colors across the cabin that seemed impossible, colors he had never seen before. The alien pressed lightly against him, and he felt the warmth spread, anchoring him, steadying his nerves. This was a delicate moment. One wrong move could disrupt the field or put the ship in danger. The anomaly reacted instantly to their approach. Pulses of energy surrounded the ship, not violently but deliberately, as if testing their intent. James matched the ship's energy output to the pulses, trying to communicate in the only way he could. The alien moved in subtle synchrony, adjusting frequencies with instinctive precision. Slowly, the chaos outside transformed into a pattern, rhythmic, understandable, almost like a heartbeat. James realized that the entity was responding to their cooperation. It was aware of both of them, the human and the alien, and it seemed to recognize their partnership. The realization filled him with awe. This was not merely survival anymore. It was the creation of a connection between species and life forms beyond imagination. They had bridged a gap that no human had crossed before. The anomaly pulsed again, brighter this time, forming arcs of energy that reached toward the ship. James adjusted the shields, careful not to provoke a reaction, and watched as the arcs seemed to wrap around the vessel in a delicate, protective embrace. The alien pressed against him, its warmth intensifying. James felt a surge of courage. Together, they could face this unknown intelligence. Minutes stretched into hours as they maintained their position within the anomaly's center. The energy pulses became more stable, forming patterns that suggested communication. James tried to decipher the rhythm, interpreting it as sequences of movement, change, and observation. It was complex, but gradually he began to see a form of logic, a way of understanding the entity's intentions. The alien moved instinctively, nudging James to adjust the ship's energy output. Each adjustment seemed to resonate with the anomaly, creating a subtle harmony. James realized that they were no longer merely observing. They were participating. Humanity, through him, was engaging with a life form beyond comprehension, and the alien was the key to bridging the gap. A sudden surge of light filled the cabin as the anomaly reacted to their synchronized energy. James gritted his teeth, holding the controls steady. The ship rocked, but he felt the alien's warmth and pulse guiding him, giving him confidence. The surge passed quickly, leaving behind a calm that was almost profound. The entity seemed to have accepted them. James allowed himself a brief moment of reflection. They had faced the unknown, adapted to challenges, and established a connection that transcended species and forms of existence. Humanity had relied on courage, skill, and technology for survival. But now it was clear that understanding and empathy could be just as powerful. The anomaly pulsed again, this time forming shapes that were almost geometric, arcs that twisted and shimmered with precision. James interpreted them as symbols of intelligence, perhaps even a greeting. He reached out instinctively, pressing a hand to the console and adjusted the sensors to mirror the anomaly's rhythms. The alien responded in kind, pressing lightly against his arm, guiding him through movements that seemed to synchronize perfectly with the energy field. For hours they maintained this interaction, the ship at the center of the anomaly, the alien beside him, and James focused on harmonizing their energies. It was exhausting but exhilarating. He felt a deep sense of wonder at the intelligence before him, a realization that life could exist in forms humans had never imagined. Finally, the anomaly pulsed in a sustained, gentle rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. James felt the significance of the moment. The entity was acknowledging them, not just as observers but as participants, collaborators. It had tested them, challenged them, and now it accepted them. The alien pressed against him again, and he felt a quiet sense of triumph and relief. They had not only survived but had made contact. James exhaled, allowing the tension to ease. He glanced at the alien, which seemed to respond with a subtle vibration, a silent affirmation of their achievement. They had done something extraordinary together, human and alien, bridging worlds, species, and forms of life. The universe felt a little smaller, a little more connected, and James realized that this was the true spirit of exploration: courage, trust, and the willingness to face the unknown. The anomaly's pulses slowed, forming gentle arcs around the ship. James adjusted the ship's systems to match the energy patterns, creating a stable resonance. The alien hovered near, radiating warmth and calm. Together they floated in the center of the anomaly, participants in a cosmic dance that few humans would ever witness. As the hours passed, James recorded every detail, noting the anomaly's responses, their synchronized actions, and the alien's subtle guidance. The data was unprecedented, offering insights into forms of life and intelligence beyond human imagination. But more importantly, it was a testament to the power of trust, cooperation, and connection. The anomaly pulsed one final time, brighter and more vibrant than before. The energy flowed around the ship like a protective shield, forming arcs that seemed deliberate and almost celebratory. James smiled, feeling a profound sense of accomplishment. They had not only survived but had formed a relationship with an intelligent life form, proving that humanity's courage and adaptability were capable of reaching across species and forms of existence. The alien pressed close, its warmth enveloping him. James felt a deep sense of gratitude for the presence that had guided him through the unknown. It had been more than a companion. It had been a bridge, a guide, and a source of insight that no instrument could provide. Together they had achieved something extraordinary. As the anomaly's energy settled into a calm, rhythmic pulse, James prepared the ship to exit the center of the field. They had gathered all the data they could safely collect, and the entity seemed to understand. Its final pulses felt like a farewell, or perhaps a promise of continued observation and interaction. The alien pressed gently against him, a silent signal that it was ready. James maneuvered the ship carefully, moving outward from the anomaly. The energy waves shimmered and twisted, then gradually stabilized. He allowed himself a moment to breathe, feeling the magnitude of what they had accomplished. Humanity had made contact with a life form beyond imagination, and it had accepted them. The alien hovered beside him, its presence reassuring and constant. James reached out, brushing a hand along its arm in a gesture of gratitude and acknowledgement. It responded with a gentle vibration, a silent affirmation of their shared journey. Together they had faced the unknown, adapted, and succeeded. As the anomaly receded in the viewport, James reflected on the lessons they had learned. Courage, ingenuity, and technology had carried them this far, but it was connection, empathy, and trust that had made the true difference. Humanity was capable of surviving and thriving, even in the vast, unpredictable universe. The alien settled beside him, and James allowed himself a moment of quiet reflection. They had formed a partnership that transcended species, a bond built on trust, warmth, and shared experience. The universe was full of mysteries, but together, they had proven that understanding and cooperation could bridge even the greatest divides. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, but inside the ship, James felt a sense of completion. They had faced one of the universe's greatest unknowns and emerged not only intact but enlightened. The alien's warmth radiated against him, a reminder of the bond that had made this possible. James smiled, knowing that this journey would change the course of human exploration. They had discovered a life form unlike any other, communicated across unimaginable differences, and proven that humanity's greatest strength was not just technology or courage, but the ability to connect, to trust, and to understand. The anomaly pulsed gently one last time, then faded slowly into the vastness of space. James felt a profound sense of awe. They had touched something extraordinary, and the memory of the experience would remain with him forever. He turned to the alien, a quiet gratitude in his gaze. Together they had faced the unknown, and